Go.
Oh,
Well,
we have two people. on the phone.
Welcome. This is a a special meeting of
Reschedule.
the Princeton Historic Preservation Commission being held electronically via Zoom on June 26, 2023 at a little after 4 p.m. Pursuant to Section 13 of the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of the time and place and agenda of this meeting has been noticed by transmitting a copy to the Princeton Packet, Town Topics, the Times, Trentonian, and by filing a copy with the Clerk of Princeton, who has posted it to the municipal website, www.princetonnj.gov/meetings. Okay, I think that's all I have to say. All right, welcome. Are there any announcements?
Madam Chair,
Elizabeth?
would you like me to do roll call?
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Ms. Capizzoli,
I'm here.
Mr. Shore,
I am here.
Mr.
Oh, boy.
Endersby? Mr. Endersby,
Oh, I'm here too.
Ms. Satterfield? Mr. Shatskin,
Here.
Ms. Howard,
I'm here.
Ms. Friedman? I know she's absent today. Mr. Pyle
You vote.
and Ms. Lewandowski.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, so the first application of Paradise Solar Energy, 974 Mercer Road, I have to recuse myself, so I guess you can
I'll
kick
move
me
you
off.
over. Yes.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can.
See you in a
find-
little bit.
Elizabeth, do we have anybody from that application here?
Yes,
Oh, good.
I have Rich Albano, who's going to be moved over. And just for the public, Mr. Shore will be serving as the chair for this application.
Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, Rich, could you turn on your camera?
Yeah, I'm just trying to find that. Okay,
That's
there we
good.
go.
Thank you. I think you're the only one here for this application, correct?
As far as I know, yes.
Okay. So, David, Mr.
Yes.
Shore, would you like Mr. Albano to continue where we left off from last?
Right. Maybe Elizabeth, you could give us a small recap of where we left off and why we continued to this meeting, and
Sure.
then we'll pick up.
So this application is 974 Mercer Road. It's for the installation of ground-mounted solar panels. The property is in the Princeton Battlefield Stony Brook Village Historic District, block 10102, lot 11 in the former Township R1 zone. It was carried from the May 15th, 2023 meeting to, I believe the commission was looking for some type of photo simulation on what this installation would look like from the roadway. Is that correct? I believe that that's correct, right, Mr. Albano?
Well, that was part of it. The other part was the fence and what would be acceptable.
Okay, so you have some alternate fence designs or the continuation of the fence that you had?
Well, I know I don't have any designs to submit other than the pictures I've already submitted showing the location of the array and the cones where the array would be extended to. In talking with the owner, he had at one time suggested a split rail fence. And then after giving consideration, he looked at many different options. He's trying his best to make sure that everybody loves what he's doing. And after consideration, I guess, and after feedback from me, his thought was to take out the front of the fence because it needs to be extended and eliminate that totally. But then extend the fence on both sides and with a new front to be a wood slat, white painted wood slat fencing that would match what he has there, because what he has there is vinyl. And my recollection from our last meeting is that was sort of one of the biggest turnoffs possibly, is that it was vinyl and not just actual wood. So the idea that he would like to propose to move forward with is extending the fence out on both sides, the additional 20 feet or so, plus a new front, which would be all wood slats. And
You mean pickets?
yes, pickets, exactly. And it would match what's already there, except that it would be wood and not vinyl. And he hoped that that would be sufficient to sort of give him the space he needs for solar, and also make it more appealing visually from the road.
3 feet high?
It's approximately 3 feet high, yes. It varies in height depending on, because it's kind of an up and down picket fence, but yeah, it's approximately 3 feet high.
And I think there was some discussion about that arched gate area. Was that something that you were going to remove, or was that going to?
Well, the arch gate is in the back of the, and it's the opening to the fenced in area, which was to originally be a garden area. And he hadn't planned to remove it. I guess, we'll still have to have access into the area where the solar will be, into that fenced in area. And it is at the back, so it's much further away from the street than the rest is, of course. I admit, I think that's probably still an open-ended question. I don't know that he told me out blank that he didn't want to remove it or that he wouldn't remove it.
And did you have any photo simulation you wanted to share with the commission on what this would look like? I think that was something that you thought you were coming back.
Yeah, well, in the end, honestly, it's going to look like what it looks like now, which is a white picket fence, but it would be made of wood slats instead of vinyl slats.
Please help me, because I'm having a little trouble following. What it looks like now, you mean what it looks like in the drawing, or what it looks like in that fence that goes around the garden that's in the same area?
Yeah, the pictures I submitted were pictures of the existing fenced in garden area. And so the suggestion would be to just make it look like that, only thing, use a material that is more acceptable, I guess.
More what? I'm sorry.
More acceptable, because
More
I
acceptable.
the vinyl was, it's
Okay,
shiny.
okay.
It's not as nice as wood.
Okay.
Can you post that? Can you share that image with us one more time? Is that okay, David?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Or let me,
Christine has her hand up too, and I just butted in.
I'm sorry, I didn't see it. Where is she?
Right.
Oh, she's moved next to me. Hi, Christine.
Hi. I just wanted to say, I have 2 topics of inquiry, and one is the size and location of the field and why the size of the field. So maybe you want to wait until that picture goes up before I ask these questions.
Christina, are you asking about the size of the solar field or the relationship of the size of the solar field to the whole yard, or what?
Both, and I have about 9 or 10 questions. I gave a lot of thought.
Okay.
hopefully everyone can see that.
Yep. Okay. I can see it now.
Can I begin the questions?
Please.
Okay. This is what it looks like now, but it's not what it's going to look like. And it's going to move closer to the road. And on one sheet, it had like 46 feet away from the road. And on another, it also pointed to the 10 feet setback on the road, which is not correct. So what I was thinking was, when you're looking at this photo, you're not seeing the way it's gonna be. This fence looks okay, or it's an image in your mind, but it's gonna be a lot bigger. And I want to ask Mr. Albano, so I'm correct that it's moving towards the road and it's actually going to be 46 feet, give or take, from the road?
Well, the cones basically are put as the extension as to where the fencing will move to. And those cones, based on our drawings, you know, I have it as 38 feet, but I have to verify, again, there's that 10-foot setback off the road. So to be honest, I think it's in that 38 to 40 foot area from the edge of the road.
Okay. What I was thinking about was, you said something to the effect that this was going to be generating, or the Wilsey's need 26,000 kilowatt hours per year.
That is what their current demand is approximately. Well, I have it as 25,000, but that was an estimate just based on looking at their bill. So approximately 25,000 kilowatt hours is what they use now. This array, even at the expanded size, will only produce about 16 to 17,000 kilowatt hours. So it'll be shy of what they need, but something's better than nothing is their thoughts.
I'm not sure about that.
Well, I went over my electrical bills for the last year,
I did too.
and I added it up, and my house is a little over 2,000 square feet. And I use in this winter, we use about 400 or 450 kilowatt hours a month, and more in the summer with air conditioner, but we average 564.75 kilowatts a month. And we have a total kilowatt usage in the last year of 6,777 kilowatt hours. So I found it difficult that the Wilsey's have like 20,000 kilowatt hours more than that a year. And you say that it's 16 kilowatt hours that will be generated, and it just, you know, the more they need in electricity, the bigger the field is going to be. And what I don't understand is why so much, because we don't use at all near that many kilowatt hours. So I'd like you to explain why the usage is so necessary, the large usage is so necessary.
Okay, well, I can sort of answer that in two ways. One is the state of New Jersey laws and the utility requirements are that we do not build a system larger than the last 12 months usage, right? So there's no way that if they only use 6 or 8 or 10,000 kilowatt hours, could we build a 16,000 kilowatt hour system? Obviously, the utility companies that we have to submit an application to have their usage for the past year, if not the past 20 years, of course. So they know exactly what's used, and the law allows any customer to build to your last 12 months usage. The other thing I'll tell you is, from personal experience and being in the solar industry for 14 years, is that you could have two houses, and one house will use 8,000 kilowatt hours and one house will use 16,000 kilowatt hours, and they could be the exact same house with the exact same square footage. One person likes to set their air conditioning at 70 degrees and one person sets it at 78 degrees. One person may use electric heaters and the other person doesn't. One person may have children that like to leave lights and TVs on, and one person doesn't. So in my experience, I generally never question people. I tell them what the average is. The average of a general house is about 10 to 12,000 kilowatt hours. And of course, everyone should try to conserve, but at the same time, I don't live there and I can't tell you why they use 25,000 kilowatt hours.
I was wondering what Elric was thinking about this.
Well, a couple of thoughts. First of all, I looked at my electrical bill. This house ran for 35 years on 2 fuses. I only had 1 fuse go out in that period of time. I don't have, you know, a dryer or an air conditioner or you know, all those television, all these things that you mentioned. So I can't judge it by that. But I guess, first of all, getting back to the fence. The fence already looks odd on that property. I see too many fences now, which are all for show. And then there's nothing behind the fence. They're not holding anything in or anything out. I would rather, if it came to it, to see something like a pale fence, which obscures more, but have it run all the way across the front of the property as if that is part of its. And the other thing I'm wondering about is this enclosure, is it within the grid of the house which faces south, or does it run along the street? Has there been any attention to just the aspect you're going to see from the street? And you know, if it looks like there's a bit of a grade change toward the street, if you had something closer there, it seems like it would obscure the front yard with some landscaping, which would, so if they had to look at the solar, they could look at the solar, but nobody else would have to. But to me, it's precedent that we are going to wind up having to okay other applications which are as inappropriate as my gut feeling is that this one is. Nice people, wonderful house, best of intentions, but it just gnaws at me. Sorry.
I just know from talking to them, they're probably willing to do whatever you believe is appropriate. They're just coming up with ideas and, you know, that they thought what they would like, but of course, whatever feedback you give me, I'll give them.
We've worked with them before. They're very receptive. You know, and they've been good neighbors. But I think it's going to look like a pool is out there. It sits in the middle of nowhere, and what does it enclose? And I don't know when you were last out at Rockingham, any of you, but you know, we put that barn up there about 10 years ago, and from the barn you look across the road and there's that huge solar field there, and it's scary to see the juxtaposition between the two. And I have bad feelings about introducing that here.
Thank you. Christine, did you still have your hand up, or is that from last time?
I'm sorry. I just want to say one thing. I like Elric's idea of the fence going across the property.
Going towards,
I
I didn't hear you, Christine.
You stretched it all out in one plane, addressing the road and taking advantage of that slight swelling of the land going up. I think nobody would, and a little bit of low shrubbery behind it. I think that like lilacs or something, which is, you know, the sort of thing you would have seen in a house like this. I don't think it would jump out at you. As it is, I think it's going to look out of place.
Okay, before going to Tom, Mr. Albano, is that a possibility to stretch the field out in different configuration?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I think that there's 2 objectives here, though. One is to screen the array from the road, so people passing by won't see it, of course. And honestly, the Wilsies also don't want to sit in their backyard or look out their window and see it. So they were trying to use the existing area. Again, costs are always a consideration here. They're trying to use the existing area, minimize the amount of additional fencing that would have to be put up so that it would be blocked from the road and it would be blocked from them. It's a fence that's already there. You really can't see what's inside. And I know from talking to Mr. Wilsey, he'd be happy to put any kind of shrubs or anything in there in case you could see through the slats to see any piece of it. But so would the fence along the road would have to be at that, I believe it's the 30-foot setback. That's where the setback is. So that would just be along the setback, and you're suggesting take down the whole fence and allow us to just sort of place the array at the best orientation, which it's fairly close to 280 degrees true south. It's a little off, but again, we were working within the confines of what was already there, trying to get the best of both worlds, get the solar that they want by using an existing fenced-in area that they already have. But I can present anything to them, of course, absolutely.
Good to know. Tom?
Yes, being the perhaps most naive, I'd be grateful for Eldrick to expound a little bit. His experience is so rich in this area. You mentioned that the fence looks odd to him, possibly for show that it's inappropriate. Is there any more thing from a historical perspective? Can we give any more guidance to the owners? What specifically is objectionable about this fence? To me, it looks like it's a fence around a flower garden or an herb garden, but in any event, it's the owner's choice. Is there anything historically inappropriate about this fence that we don't like? Or are we rather more concerned that there's just solar on the field, in which case we have a conflict, as I mentioned last time, between historical preservation and planning for the future?
To me, to my eye, it's too decorative that, you don't find the arch. I have seen examples in New Jersey, but that's really a New England feature. And the swooping business around is, it's out of a catalog. And I think that you want it to be as the house is the main event, and the fence should be sympathetic to the house without trying to overwhelm it with more design. That's just my sense of it. I wish it wasn't happening at all.
Is that to say that a fence in this perimeter, if more modestly configured, would be acceptable?
Well, I think that's what we're talking about, the material and the design. And there are photographs of Mercer Road, Princeton Pike, with fences on various locations. There are plenty of photographs of this house when it was Victorianized. I don't remember if there's a fence or not. I do know that the barns were on the other side of the road, so that the farm itself the cows are wandering across Mercer. I'm really more curious to hear some of the other comments than try to overwhelm the conversation myself.
All right, Roger?
Yeah, I keep coming back to the idea that these folks are trying to do the right thing in terms of renewable energy. That has a lot of weight with me. I've driven by a bunch of times since this conversation started, and I don't really see this area of the property conflicting with the sight lines toward the house. I mean, the main sight line toward the house is further south on Princeton Pike there, or maybe it's still Mercer Road. So, an array with a slightly simpler pattern, fence with a slightly simpler design would be fine. Frankly, I would be fine with the array there with nothing around it. As long as there was no, if some of the shinier elements could be toned down somehow, I don't really see it impacting the sense of this house, this wonderful house that's back there off the road. I mean, I think Elric's right. This is kind of more of a distraction. Your eye focuses on the enclosure now and says, "What the heck is that?" It's just sort of like this little alien object about to take off, sitting on the corner of the thing. So something a little more organic if we want to hide the array, but I would simply I could go as far as just putting an array out there, and if the Wolfsies don't like it, let them put up whatever they want on their side on the front as well. That is simple and non-obtrusive.
Christine and Mr. Albano, is there a requirement for fencing, like a swimming pool? We have to have a fence around this, or can we have no fences kind of being put out there right now?
So there is a National Electric Code requirement that there has to be a barrier, but that barrier in every town, it seems to be interpreted differently. So when we normally do ground mount systems, they're 6 to 13 feet high, there are multiple levels. You know, and then they're just larger ground mounts that we're putting on farms most of the time. And in areas where there's no children or people or even animals, the towns have allowed us to put a screening in the back of the array. In some other locations where it's more open to anybody walking around, we've put, 6 foot high fencing. In essence, the barrier can be determined to be whatever you want it to be. I sort of look at it something similar to a swimming pool, a 4 foot high fence. If you're trying to do the minimum just for safety purposes, so someone doesn't wander in around the array, a 4 foot high safety fence is fine. This fence would, in essence, potentially meet the requirement. Again, we haven't gone through permitting phase yet, so we'd have to hear from the folks there. But again, it's a barrier if it's keeping anybody from just walking into it. And of course, as you can realize, solar is UL listed, it's safe. You'd have to go in there with wire cutters to have something, dangerous happen to you. As opposed to wall sockets where kids can stick their fingers at any time. So, it's been sort of the technology has been developed that is very safe. And a barrier of some sort is needed.
Good. Because I can't see everybody. Shirley, do you have any? Yeah.
Yeah, we're spending a lot of time talking about the fence. I thought one of the main features was the solar panels. And is the fence supposed to be shielding the solar panels? I don't know what the connection between the fence and the panels are, because we've lost sight of the panels talking about the fence. So how is the fence connected to the panels?
Encloses them.
Yeah, I guess it's somewhat to visually hide them, but I guess we're also learning that it's not absolutely necessary to have a fence, or we don't know that yet until it goes to get its permits.
Well, when the panels are done, can't shrub go around it instead of the fence? Would that hide it if that's what you're trying to do?
I think honestly that there's still going to be some requirement for a fence because that's what the code says, a barrier. So I don't know that shrubbery would be considered a barrier.
Okay.
Right. I've been wondering because, because deer are the bane of my existence. What will happen when deer run through there, even with a fence, because they can get over 4 feet very easily.
I've seen it. I had struck a deer on my way into Princeton years ago in front of this house. And I've also seen a coyote on this property, before dawn.
There we go. Thank you. Frida, some comments?
No, actually, I don't have any comments. I mean, I am concerned about I do have quick comments, but I'm concerned about the look of it, but I think if the fence is put up and then shrubberies put around it, I mean, I wouldn't have a problem with it. You know, like Roger said, they're trying to do the right thing, but, you know, it just, yeah, I think shrubbery around it will help a lot.
Anybody else want to comment? So one of the things I heard that kind of stuck out to me is came out of Roger's comments about organic, slightly similar fence, but maybe plainer. I guess I am concerned about how much the Willsies were going to be reusing the fence they've got and saving some of the expense. If I've got that correct.
Well, the front of that array, the front of the fence was going to have to go away. And in my last conversation with Mr. Wilsey, he had no problem in taking that away and not using it. And so you'd have basically an open U or open C, you know, with the three sides of the fence that are there now without the front. And then you would continue it on both sides and then put a new front on it. And those two new sides and the front would be of some other material that hopefully would match what they have there already. That was his idea anyhow, without using any of the fence that they take down.
Okay. Elizabeth, do you have some thoughts?
Well, I'm just going to kind of reiterate what I heard from the other commission members. I think that some of the comments was that the fence as it exists today, whether it be for the solar panels or a garden behind it, was not something that was actually appropriate for this property or the historic district, which is, everyone knows, is the Princeton Battlefield and the Stony Brook Settlement District. So if the commission was to approve the solar panels, I think that probably the fence itself is just not appropriate for this property or the district, and that it should be presented as Elric and Christine has something that just is very subdued, and just, you know, again, not take away from the house itself or the property. I mean, again, no one wants the attention to go to a white picket fence that's actually not of character of the property or the house. So if the commission felt that they would support that, then to, again, line the fence in front of the property as if it was part of the landscape itself and not just enclosing something that really, you know, that you can't see, you know, because if you had a garden, obviously you'd see plantings, but you don't see anything there. And again, that would be the same situation here where the solar panels aren't going to be high enough. So you've got a fence, like a garden fence that's enclosing something that you can't see. And I do have concerns about this ground solar panel in this district. You know, I've been working with the Battlefield Trust and the Park Service, you know, getting ready for sorry, I have an automatic light that turns off every once in a while, so I have to go fan it up. And some of them are very, a little bit more, some thoughts are that they actually want to take trees down that they felt that were not in the field. Now, you know, Princeton is a tree hugging community, so I'm not sure how that would go. But again, I'm kind of looking at the two extremes. You know, we're looking at the historic district, what that is, what the properties were within this area, and trying to preserve the historic character in the streetscape. And I think that if there's a way to be able to allow the fence to work for the installation, that would be great. But if it doesn't, then think that it just doesn't work for this site. I mean, as much as I think the commission wants to be supportive of sustainability and green energy, I think that they have to weigh both sides of it.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public here for this topic that we should hear from?
There is a hand up, Kathleen Carroll. Would you like me to bring her over?
Yes, please.
It, right?
Kathleen, you're brought over. If you could unmute yourself and put your camera on, that would be helpful.
Hi, I'm here
Ms.
for one,
Carroll, do you swear the testimony you're about to give is truthful?
I do.
Thanks, go ahead.
I'm here for 180 John Street, but I worked in solar as a solar designer for 4 years. So I just want to say you do need a fence around the solar panels, and yes, animals do eat wires. So that is a concern. So
Okay.
on roofs, squirrels and other animals will chew on the wires.
So Carol, I'm going to put you back in the public, but when we get to 180, and there will be a time for the public, please feel free to raise your hand again.
Okay.
Thank you. So let me put the thoughts that are coming to my mind on the table, and then I guess it's time to see if we can start crafting a resolution one way or the other or not. I think I'm going to go completely opposite of what we've talked about and probably what the Willsies were expecting, and trying to come up with something that was appropriate to the time period and trying to give us some visual barrier. And I think that unless you're like the Park Service and you hide things in barrels and structures and things like that that are modern kind of intrusions, I'm thinking that this is the great opportunity to actually have the item that's 21st century be as honest and simple as possible, and go with the most utilitarian simple fence that does the job, and therefore does not confuse the public that this is anything but something new and of our era and of our time. That may be totally unpopular, but I think I had to put that out there as an idea. Anybody have any comment, or does anyone want to try to put together an idea for a resolution? I see two hands. Tom first.
Yeah, as may have been prefaced by my queries of Ulrich, I'm in favor of this fence, just a modest, as the owner wants it. If we were really being historic and true to the history of this area, we'd be asking for split rail fences. So I think we have to keep a balance here. And to David's point, we are in the modern era. I'm not wild about the artistic aesthetic at all of solar panels. I'm still crawl in my throat when I see these Corzine panels on TV, on telephone poles around, which are ugly to look at. But I don't see anything here that is so objectionable from the historical perspective. Okay, mute the fence, tone it down a little bit to make it more obscure, I suppose, but let the owner fence it all sides around so that they don't have to look at the panels either. But they are trying to do the right thing, and I think we have to be accommodating for this modern innovation in a historic district.
Yeah,
Was
no,
it
I
Roger
was,
next?
yeah, I was just gonna second that support. I mean, I really, the principles of historic preservation, allow for the mixture of the old and new. We're not supposed to discourage the new. And this is new that has a very good utility. And, you can get very extreme hiding things. I wish we had the power to make PSE&G bury all their wires. It would look much more historic, and it would be much more efficient in weather like we're having today. We wouldn't have to worry about our meeting getting blown off the air. Anyway, I'll stop there. I mean, it's just, I think it's utilitarian. I would move to approve it and have an administrative review of the fence.
Anybody want to second that or add any language to it or change anything?
Big fence,
I'll only say that when they came to us, the same couple came to us with a plan for a garage that we had misgivings about. Later on, they came in and we sat down with them and showed them some alternatives, and they were, and we also showed them the barn across the wagon house across the road from you, David. And what they did was not exactly historic, but it was a lot better than what they started with. So I'll say that I'd be happy to work with Elizabeth and the Wilsies if that's what it takes to resolve this.
So what do we do with that? Christine,
I was just going to suggest again what Elric had said, to have a fence that goes across the property of Mercer, and you wouldn't really know where the field was, especially if plantings were put in front or even behind the fence. And I think it would be maybe cheaper to put it behind the fence just where the solar panels are. And you wouldn't really think going by it that there were solar panels there. As opposed to now, when you go by, you see this, this garden area, which is, it's certainly not 1820 or so, which is what the house age is.
Part of it.
I think it's a really good idea, and I think that everybody could go with it. It's, I think it's, anyway, that's what I think should be the case. In this way, we are supporting solar generation of electricity.
All right. It's okay with me.
so what do we craft here? A invitation to sit down with Christine and Elric to sketch out a couple of ideas what it could look like and then have it administratively approved, or is there a different path I'm not understanding?
Well, I think we'd approve the installation with the condition that the final design of the fence be administratively approved by Elizabeth and Elric and Christine, whatever configuration we want to add to that.
I'd like to support Roger's point. I'd like to, however, just not support Christine's sincere suggestion about the fence all the way across the line. Let the owners work this out to their best advantage with Elric's and Christine's and Elizabeth's suggestions. But I'm not in favor of seeing a tunnelized view of that property with a fence all the way along the property. It's not a sound barrier. It's I'm sure a good solution can be worked out in consultation with and at the ultimate decision of the owners.
Everybody comfortable with that?
I don't think that if you're gonna say it's the ultimate decision of the owner, that actually says that they actually don't need to consult with Elric.
No, I am suggesting that they consult with everybody, and but it's not unless we're going to say we're going to make the decision. So I think we have to. There's owners' rights that we also have to be aware of here. We are trying to be historically minded. They are trying to do the right thing. There is cost involved. We have stated our concerns to make the thing more modest, 1820s, if you like. That I presume can be done. Elric is obviously very well equipped to give them all the guidance they need on this. So yes, let them work it out with Elizabeth and let us proceed.
I just don't think we should give the owner carte blanche approval of their own project.
Yeah, I don't think we can.
I'm not saying carte blanche, I'm saying highly advised,
I don't think we're suggesting that.
right?
I mean, it's ironic to me, we're spending more time
Right.
on this project than our scofflaws who don't come in. And, more time than we've spent on any particular, that I can recall, a house installation. We've gotten those handled a little more efficiently. I'll just go back and restate. I would move to approve with administrative approval of the final design. Ed can do the language much better than I. And Elizabeth can consult with whoever she wants to on the commission to do it, as long as it's not a quorum.
I'll second that.
Ed, you have something?
David, yeah, well, I'm the guy who's gonna write it up. So, as I understand the motion is to approve the proposed size of the array as suggested to be enclosed in a new fence, which will have some landscaping and will be administratively approved by either the chair or the acting chair and the HPC officer or members of the HPC. Is that what we're approving?
I think the only question I have, and this goes to Mr. Albano, is whether it necessarily has to be enclosed, I guess.
I'm wondering that too.
Whether just a screen is good enough.
Well, the hard part about having a screen, and when I say screen on the larger solar ground mount systems, it's a vinyl screen that has 1/2-inch openings. That is, you can't rip it apart with your hands. It's very strong, and that is actually tied to the back of the array. So that's the kind of screen that we have there. On this array, because you have separate individual rows, it would be very difficult, I think, to put a screen behind that would encompass all of the wires and the modules so that it's considered safe. Again, the language is very vague. Yes, the woman who spoke earlier, a barrier is required. And so a 4-foot safety fence like you would put around the pool sort of would be the minimum that you could do, just so, again, it's looked at as being safe. So some kind of screen or fence has to be around the array.
All right, do you have any objection with Ed's formulation? We'll go back to that, and that's fine.
Just to be clear for Roger, are you stipulating landscaping as well as fencing?
Was I?
While you ponder that, is this something we leave to the administration of this? I'm sure our administrators can come up with a good solution and advise, and I'm sure that owners will want to abide, but the less we mandate, maybe the more flexible they can solve the problem.
Are you okay with this, Elizabeth?
You mean having it administratively reviewed
Yeah,
with the details? Yes. It's just a little more work, but yes, I think if we come in with a better solution, then I'm happy to do that. I think that oftentimes that's the way that it needs to go.
Okay, good.
Do you want to add possible landscaping to the formulation, Ed, or do you think that's not necessary?
Well, I think, Roger, in terms of maximum flexibility, I think we should talk about, it doesn't have to be a ton of landscaping, but I think Elizabeth should have the flexibility to be able to take a look at the new 4-foot high safety fence. We'll approve the array, the size of the array as requested, so at least they have an approval. And then I think Elizabeth should have the flexibility to request some landscaping to go around that fence.
That sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Do we do roll call on this?
Yes. Mr. Pyle,
Yes,
Mr. Endersby,
Yes.
Ms. Satterfield? Shirley?
She indicated yes.
Yes.
Do you hear her voice? Okay,
Mr.
Okay.
Shatskin?
Yes,
Ms. Howard?
yes,
Mr. Shore? Ms.
Yeah, I hear. Yes.
Ms. Lewandowski?
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for coming in and giving us this proposal and giving us more things to understand. And I think we've learned a lot, and we're going to be doing a whole lot more of these, I'm sure. And the one reason I paused when the roll was being called is that I expect to be coming in with a similar application. I don't know if it's appropriate that I voted today. I meant to ask Ed that earlier, but I think we came up with a good plan.
Thank you all. I appreciate your time and your thoughtfulness. And I know the Wilsies will be more than willing to work with you to come up with an answer based on my conversations with them. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, do we bring Julie back in?
Yes, she's coming back in. Frida, I'm going to be swapping you out.
during the slow, I talked to Christine Symington about community solar, which is where you could a community can share in a solar field. And actually, it exists right now. We could all be saving up to 17% of our electric bill if we opted into community solar. She'd be willing to come and talk to us and explain the whole deal if we wanted to put her on the agenda at some point. I mean, there's a downside to community solar. You can't put batteries on your system and store energy for a cloudy day, but it does allow you to participate in renewable energy and provide savings. So if we want to hear from Christine, I'd be happy to set that up with Julie and Elizabeth.
I think that's a very good bit of research. Thank you.
Thanks,
Welcome.
Roger.
Welcome.
So our next application is 92 Wynant Road. Eileen Bitterly. Elizabeth, do you want to move her?
Yes. I believe their attorney that's representing her is Kevin Moore. And
Okay,
I had promoted the property owner now.
great. Hi, welcome.
Hi. Eileen, your attorney is Kevin Moore, correct? For
Yes.
today? Okay. Oh, sorry.
That's all right. You got to get a different light.
I know.
Yeah.
I
All
didn't
right.
bring home the power cord, so I may fade out on my own.
Oh, I see Kevin. So Elizabeth,
Yeah.
thank you so much for writing our report, dated June 23rd, 2023. Do you want to just summarize your report quickly?
Sure.
Elizabeth, excuse me, do you swear your report and testimony is truthful? And Ms. Bitterly, you'll also testify truthfully, correct?
correct.
I do.
All right, thank you very much. And Kevin Moore is joining us as the attorney. All right, Elizabeth, go ahead.
So the applicant and the owner is under the name of Mads Money LLC, which is Eileen Bitterly is here representing, has installed 15 replacement windows to the house on the subject property without historic preservation approval. So subsequent to the applicant being advised of this violation, she did submit a historic preservation application, which is on file and which you had in your packet. So the site is identified as block 9301, lot 6 on the Princeton tax map. It's further known as 92 Wynant Road, and also known as 481 Stockton Street. The property lies within the municipal Princeton Battlefield Stony Brook Settlement Historic District and 2 national and state places of historic districts, which is the Princeton Battlefield, Stony Brook Village Historic District, and the Kings Highway Historic District. The property contains approximately half an acre and lies within the former township R2 zone. This property is classified under the type 1 district, which is anything visible from the public right of way or from any changes from any other property within the type 1 district of the historic district that I just talked about. So this property lies, as I said, within the Princeton Battlefield and Stony Brook Settlement Historic District of the Overlay Zoning Board zoning map, and the district is a local, state, and nationally registered historic district. There's information on there on the history of the district, which I'm not going to go over, but just for reference. The original district was listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1972 originally, and in 1989, it was enlarged to include properties on the northern and southern side of Stockton Street, which included key and contributing buildings, and on the north side of Lawrenceville Road, which included a key farmstead complex, and on the south side of Lawrenceville Road, which included significant areas in the military maneuvering that led to the start of the Battle of Princeton, and the north side of Mercer Road, with contributing buildings of the 18th century Worth family farmhouse and associated farmland. When the district was enlarged in 1989, this property was identified as a contributing property to this expanded district. The name of the district was changed from the Princeton Battle Historic District to the Princeton Battlefield Stony Brook Village Historic District because of these additional contributing and key properties that was included in that nomination. And in addition, as mentioned, the Kings Highway Historic District is significant for its historic roadway that dates back to colonial times, where the highway was laid out by the order of Charles II of England. This roadway is lined with significant sites and institutions that played an important role in the history of the United States. The highway connects Lawrenceville, Kingston, and Princeton, encompassing 5 National Historic Landmarks, 8 historic districts, and the Governor's Mansion of New Jersey Drumthwacket, which is also independently registered on the National Register of Historic Places. So according to the 1981 architectural survey, which was included in the report, the house was built circa 18th century, and there were alterations and additions that were implemented circa 1830 through 1845, and a second floor addition, again, which was added in the mid 20th century. The property has 2 frontages. The one on the north side of Stockton Street, which is original, and the other is on the south side of Wynette Road, which is near the corner of Russell Road. The historic structure on the site is 1.5 stories with a basement, and the historic front door faces onto Stockton Street. The building is 3 bay, mostly symmetrical, with some 6/6 sash windows and casement attic windows. The historic section of the house is rectangular with a random fieldstone foundation and a gable roof. There's an end chimney that is part of the 1830-1845 addition. The ground floor of the building is believed to have been the blacksmith shop back in the 18th century, with the blacksmith living nearby during the Revolutionary War. A similar 18th century house is near this structure, which is located 487 Stockton Street, and is believed to have historic relations to this building because of the similar first floor construction. Let's see. Let me just see what else there is on here. There was a at the time, the second floor was added during circa 1830s and 1840 alterations. The building at that time was converted from the use of a blacksmith to a house. The property was owned with its neighboring property by Charles Olden until it became part of the Archibald. Sorry. So sorry. Became part of the Archibald D. Russell Edgerstone estate until the land was subdivided in the 1920s. The mid-20th century addition was completed before Gillette Griffith purchased the property in 1963. During Mr. Gillette's ownership, an addition was designed by the local architect Maximilian Hayden, although the addition did not alter any of the historic section of the house. The building, as you know, is often referred to as the Gillette House. Elmer Lee was interviewed extensively by our own Mr. Endersby as part of his oral history documentation. Mr. Lee's father worked on the construction of Edgerstone Estate. Elmer's father continued to use the forge and subsequently became Mr. Russell's farmer and lived on the property nearby. So any information that you might have, Mr. Endersby is here to answer any of those questions. So the window replacements, there are 15, and in your package you saw there were elevation photographs which identified where those windows were replaced. The applicant indicates that the existing window frames were retained, however, the sashes were replaced. She did note that there was deterioration from wood rot and water damage, and some water was seeping into the exterior, and that is why she felt that there was replacement necessary. The window replacement used was Extreme Series 3000 double hung 6/6 with a double lock, which is similar to what existed. They are aluminum with a white finish. Several windows were not removed, such as small lead windows on the lower floor facing Stockton Street. Windows dimension analysis that we use is the former borough policy, which they allow for a 1/4 inch differential. And so if you look under the window dimension analysis, you'll see that there's only one dimension that seems to be a little bit larger, and that's where there's 3 windows, the newer ones, where the height is slightly smaller. There are additional window dimensions that were not available because at the time the windows had already been replaced and the original windows had been discarded by the contractor. So the applicant did the best she could with the information that she had and provided whatever dimensions that are in the report. The application also talks about siding repair and replacement. The applicant and I had met out the site initially, and it was determined at the time that it was only spot locations. There weren't large areas, and they were placed with cedar and painted the same color. And so at that time, it was determined that that was appropriate and acceptable, and it was replacement in kind. So just to go down to the comments, there's just a few. Again, the application talks about the siding and that it was resolved and it should be not part of this review. The applicant is asked if the original and replacement windows had or have screen windows with it. And the last one is according to the application, the windows removed were wood windows and replaced with aluminum windows. It is recommended that the commission concentrate on the portion of the historic part of the house and not the addition where, if there are some within that addition where the windows were replaced, because obviously the historic part of the building is what's important. And with that said, the commission should determine if it's appropriate that the placement material is, and its profile is appropriate and acceptable for this historic building. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. Well, I'll just turn it over to the applicant and her lawyer, and you can take it from here.
Madam Chair, or somebody, could my camera be put on? This is Kevin Moore.
Yeah, can you do that?
I'm trying. I think you
Oh.
have to do it at your end.
Oh,
There we go. Thank you.
We see you.
Yeah,
Me
I see
too.
me too. For the record, my name's Kevin Moore with the firm of Stevens and Lee, and I represent the applicant this afternoon, Mads Money LLC, which, as you've alluded to, owns 92 Winnett Road. I would just like to, as an initial matter, supplement some of the information in Ms. Kim's report. The last addition to the house, which you referenced, was put on in 2006, and it was an 800 square foot addition to the house. It includes the house's primary bedroom, a bathroom, a powder room, the study office for the house, and the house's entry foyer. And it also included the addition of a bluestone terrace. And I'd also like to focus in on as mentioned in the New Jersey Office of Historic Preservation Historic Sites Inventory individual structure survey form for this house, which was attached to Ms. Kim's report that you have. All that remains of the circa 18th century house are the 4 basement walls of the house. And the circa 18th century structure, and this was before the 2006 edition, as the survey notes, has been much altered and added to. Therefore, I would posit that the house itself, the historic significance of the house itself, qua house, not towards its contribution to the greater historic district, is of limited significance. As Ms. Kim alluded to, the applicant has already replaced the sashes. And when the applicant's contractor was preparing to paint the house, he discovered that most of the window sashes were damaged and deteriorating from dry rot. Some sashes weren't operable and started breaking apart when trying to open them. They couldn't be painted. The contractor advised Ms. Bitterly that it was unsafe and that Mads Money LLC wouldn't be able to get a certificate of occupancy because this house is in the process of being sold for the house with windows that weren't operable. And as has been alluded to, there were also windows that repeatedly leaked during heavy rains, allowing water to penetrate the exterior walls of the house and damage the interior ceiling below those walls. The contractor verified, and I've independently verified, that there was no permit required for the installation of the replacement windows. Based on all these circumstances, and Ms. Bitterly was traveling on family business, dealing with some family situations, she authorized the contractor to replace the sashes sometime during the week of April 17th through 21st. The applicant, as Ms. Kim alluded to, then made application to the commission on May 1st. And in answer to one of the questions that Ms. Kim asked in her report, both the old window sashes had screens and the replacement sashes have screens. So both had screens. As part of the application, Ms. Bitterly provided an illustration of the replacement sashes. We have a PowerPoint, but if the board has all this in their packets, I don't know that it's necessary for us to run through it. We're happy to. And she provided photos of the various windows, and the ones circled in red are the windows that are actually have been replaced. I would point out, and maybe if we could just, if I can share my screen.
You can
Yeah.
share.
Is it, let's see. And then hopefully. Is that, you have it?
I think it's
Yes. Great.
coming up. Let's see. There it is.
Great. So the first slide is just the style of the current windows and the differences, which Ms. Kim has already alluded to. And as you can see, they're colonial style 6/6, which is what the original windows were as well. And then, hold on. My technological abilities are somewhat historical.
Doing great.
Eileen, when we get to the, let's just focus on, here's an important view. This is the view from Stockton Street of the house, which is what faces the battlefield and is on the historic, as you can see.
Where's the house?
That's the point. You can barely see the house, and those are conifers, not deciduous trees. So you really can't see these replacement windows when you're off of the property. Again, you see from 206, it's now those are replacement windows, but these are taken right on the property. This is not what you would see if you were off of the property. Again, in order to take the pictures, Ms. Bitterly had to get close, but again, you wouldn't really see this off of the property line. Here's one hidden behind a tree. And again, these are on the property. You can't really see them from off of the property, and they are the same style. So here, let me stop sharing.
Thank you for doing that.
Oh, my pleasure. I think we satisfy the criteria in the relevant criteria in the ordinance that Ms. Kim was kind enough to set forth in her report. If the first is the general criteria that every application has to satisfy, which is in your section T10B-386 parens 1, and it says that the replacement sashes, I think, are colonial in style like the prior sashes. They're 6x6, they're 6/6 with the muntins like the prior windows. Therefore, I think they're appropriate to and compatible with the existing structures and landscape in the district. I don't think they adversely affect the ambience and character and appearance of the district, because as I said, they're exactly the same style. And it's important to emphasize the frames have not been replaced. This is strictly sashes. I don't think they adversely affect the exterior architectural features. I mean, as a layman looking at them, they certainly look, they fit in. You can't really tell the material from the distance or even that close to the house. And they would not adversely affect any exterior architectural features in the surrounding historic district. With respect to the, applicable for restoring a house, again, this is more replacement maintenance than restoration. So I don't know that while it was good for Ms. Kim to set them forth, they're really applicable here. So with that, that concludes our initial presentation. We are happy to answer any questions that the commission has.
Thank you. All right, and I just wanted to make sure that, are David and Roger participating in this discussion? I just don't see their cameras on, so. Oh, there he is. Okay, there's Roger. And, is David, recusing, or anyway? I guess we'll find out. Anyway, are there questions for the applicant, Christine?
Yes, I was wondering, are there trill mullions in the windows?
I'm sorry, are there what? Trill?
Mullions.
True.
Yes, in other words, that there's a frame of the mullions and
The glass is not separate in between the muntins of each window sash.
they're not,
Is that,
they're probably not like what was replaced then. Because I would think that the wooden ones did have true mullions.
okay, but they're not, these are not replicas of what was there. And it hasn't been represented that these are replicas of what was there.
All right, I just wanted to make sure.
All right, are there other questions?
One more.
Yeah, oh, go ahead.
To point out that the conifers come and go. And when we did the Kings Highway nomination, this house actually was a prominent house shown in the nomination, and you could see the whole entire front. So, vegetation doesn't last forever. I just wanted to make that point.
All right.
Nothing lasts forever, but
Yeah.
these are substantial, healthy trees, and they largely obscure it. And it's hard to believe something so historically affected, degraded, would be a significant contributing structure, but
Right. Other comments, questions?
I guess I'll weigh in. I did have the opportunity to befriend Elmer Lee 50 years ago when I first started doing the oral history. He became one of the principal sources. I interviewed him again and again. He'd grown up in Cedar Grove, but when Edgerstone was being built, his father moved from Cedar Grove, and they lived in the house next door, the Little's house. And his father, among other things, did smithing, and so he continued to use that cellar area for that purpose. I have a book behind me that I bought years ago, photographs that were taken mostly in 1915. It wasn't published for another 40 years, but the house is included, and it looks very much the way it did until those trees went up. The front of the house had changed very little. I'm curious about, I had, it's many years since I was in it. The name, by the way, is Gillette Griffin. It's Mr. Griffin, whose name was attached to it for many, many years. Any event, I'm wondering, I really don't know enough about the inside of the house to know when a lot of these changes were affected. It is a house that is part of the two districts, really, the Kings Highway and the Stony Brook Battlefield districts. When you moved in, were you informed that this house was a part of an historic district? And I'm just trying to discover how a new property owner is made aware of the advantages and the constrictions of an historic district designation.
Well, I've never lived in the house. I never did move in. It was a rental property for the last 6-7 years that I've had it. And I bought it from the estate. So therefore there were no disclosures. To your point, there was no official transfer of information or anything. I knew it was in a historic district by hearsay. I only learned probably a month ago that the historic district starts with that house. I just assumed it was the entire Edgerstone neighborhood was the historic district. Nobody informed me of anything. No. So
I don't know who, I mean, some of the windows you pointed to are windows which I believe were, well, they're part of the house that was added to quite recently by Max Hayden's designs. There's at least one very well-known window manufacturer, and it turned out, and they were renowned for restoration, but they changed the materials they were using back in the 90s and maybe a little earlier than that. And they actually wound up replacing those windows in deference to the notion that they were no longer producing the same quality that they had before. You might have actually gotten the opportunity to replace those windows at their cost. But it's one of those things where partially we are responsible for making new owners aware of these things, but we are only trying to be as helpful as we can be. And so in some cases, they're just materials. We just went through this with the fence on the previous application, which are really not appropriate to some of these historic structures. And we're not castigating you personally, but it is a matter of concern. And we also deal with precedent. So when sometimes we may be very sympathetic to one project, but we recognize the fact that it may lead to precedent which could affect other projects coming before us in the future. I don't know how anyone else feels about this, but those are my reactions.
Christine, you have your hand up again.
Yes, when I was working for the township, we had the tax collector put whether or not it was on this, in a historic district, on all of the tax bills. And so maybe you should look at your tax bill unless they've changed the process. But that was one of the first lines of telling a person that it was in a district.
Thank
And
you, Christine.
That continues to occur now for both township and borough. It is on the tax map, on your tax bill. It shows.
So after you get over the shock of the number, then you get to look at the whether it's historic or not. Okay, other questions, comments? I mean, our point here is to either allow the windows or suggest something else. David?
Muted. You're muted, David.
There we go. So I guess I need comment from Ed as whether a nearby neighbor can speak or not.
Are you within 200 feet?
Well, I haven't measured it, but I suspect.
Well, then, go ahead, Ed.
You can only speak as someone from the public then. You'd have to.
All right, well, then shift me over there.
Okay.
All right, so that's all right. So let's keep on going with the
Commissioner.
panelists here. We lost Frida.
She's recused herself, Julie.
Oh, got it. So it's just us.
Where's
Any other comments, questions? If not, I can open it up to the public.
Okay. All right, I'm going to bring David back to comment from the public. Okay, he should be coming over soon.
Okay.
And if there's anyone else in the public who'd like to speak, just raise your hand and we'll bring them over one by one.
Okay, so I don't know what happened that it couldn't, it didn't like recategorizing me, I guess, as a member of the public or whatever.
David, your testimony as a member of the public, is it truthful?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So one of the comments made earlier that I think needs to be thought about carefully by the commission is that nominations to historic districts are vigorously and professionally put together in this community. And after thought comment that the significance of the house was questionable by Mr. Moore, I think is inappropriate testimony. There are legions of people who worked on these documents, and they're filed with the state and approved by both state and national register review process. So saying that the house lost its integrity or because of its change in uses, that was historic. So I think we can't let that go by. The other thing that I think we're missing the point on is the true divided lights. Those Muntons and mullions have profile, they have definition, they have depth, and that gives a totally different read on those windows than the flat lines that are supposed to indicate the different window panes. I don't know what you all are going to decide to do about it, but I just didn't want to let that go by as fact. It's a very different appearance. I think that's everything I have to say.
All right, thanks, David. Elizabeth, are there other people?
No one else has their hand raised. I would like to add to something that David had said. I'm just trying to get him back over there. The 1981 architectural survey that was in the packet was actually part of the nomination material that was submitted for state and national review. So that information has not changed. So even though it might say that there are certain components that were, that's limited as far as original, that information was reviewed by the state and national, and they still considered that to be contributing.
All right. Any other, so no one else from the public?
No, no one else.
Okay. All right, Tom.
Question, is there some remedy that we're contemplating here, or are we thinking of the possibility of asking the owner to take out the windows and replace them?
Well, I think it's up to us whether we allow all the windows to be left where they are, or if we request certain windows to be of a different quality, or so I think that's, I mean, the main thing is whether or not these are acceptable or not.
So if we deem them not acceptable, what then is going to happen? Are we going to
Well,
insist
then-
that the windows are replaced?
Then there could be like one window on the front facade, I mean, there's a whole array of possibilities, but
I disagree. I disagree because it's an all or nothing. That's how I got in the position of having to replace 15 windows. I didn't set out to replace any windows. I just set out to upgrade the exterior of the house because I was putting it on the market for sale. And I wanted the entire thing painted and spruced up to put my best foot forward for the spring market. And when some windows start falling apart or are rotten, you can't just do every other window. On the inside, they're all within the same rooms. And from the outside, it's not cohesive. So that's not an option here that you're going to say a few of them need to be replaced. It's all or nothing.
I see. So you're saying from the interior appearance, it would look completely
Yeah.
strange.
It's an
to have-
open interior, the dining room, living room. So the windows that go across the front and up the side are all within basically the same exact room.
So okay, let me correct myself then. So as far, so yeah, it's either replace all the windows or leave the windows.
I'm wondering if this house has two street side, front and back. As far as its historical significance is concerned, our purview would necessarily, I'd like to think it would be to the King's Highway, that side. But I don't know where a choice like this occurs and where it's so important that the real character of a 6/6 wooden window is respected. And I don't know whether it was the contractor who suggested this or it was a
Yeah, the
person.
contractor suggested this. I was away dealing with a family crisis. The house is going on the market and he believed that the windows, and he verified with John Pedinati that the windows replacements did not need any permit approval. So
So I just want to clarify something. When John Pettinotti is in the building department, it means that it does not need a building permit. It does not mean that you do not need historic preservation application approval. That's completely different.
well, that's what
Guys,
you told
I
me.
didn't really want to raise this, but when I see how this is going, I discussed this with Mr. Schmier. And I really believe that this commission lacks authority or jurisdiction over replacement windows in the absence of a permit. It exceeds what's granted to historic preservation commissions under the municipal land use law. And the appellate division has held that ordinances that do that are invalid. Now, we don't really want to raise that, but I am raising it. And obviously, if we were to have to replace these windows, it would be the basis of our appeal.
Thank you. So, again, my understanding is that we could, and I understand the cohesive issue. So I think requesting a window here and there piecemeal is not going to be feasible. So our question is, are we going to request all these windows to be replaced and have an appeal, or will we accept this? I think that's really where we are. I mean, it's not a great reality. I think a lot of information should have passed through one person to another person, but that didn't happen. So given that that is what the reality is, our question is, are we accepting this with the idea that we will try to alert owners in a more timely way, or will we ask for all these windows to be replaced, knowing that this will be appealed? And if anyone wants to make a motion, go ahead.
Christine, you've been through this as our over many years with the commission. Have we had other instances like this that we should profit from?
I quite frankly do not remember this ever happening. I don't think it has ever happened where windows were replaced differently without a permit, well, without historic preservation approval.
And what about the whole permitting situation? I mean, we've had this situation with those solar panels in town in the last year, which were applied without our cognizance. I'm just trying to figure out how we avoid this situation in the future. If we, this has been thrust upon us. This is something which should be taken care of within the ordinance and the understanding of the ordinance. So anyway.
So, I mean, I have a question. I know that HPC actually took the owner of the Clark Cottage to court for replacement of windows, in addition to other material on the house that was not approved. I just am trying to, maybe Ed can clarify on what Mr. Moore is talking about when he talks about that it is not something that is acceptable for us to request when it's always been requested.
Well, Kevin did call and sent a letter to me explaining his position that basically HPC didn't have jurisdiction over the replacement of these windows. We, of course, disagree with that. And we have had and always have had jurisdiction over contributing properties within an historic zone that replaced windows. The situation with the Little Red House on Mercer was a lot more involved than just replacing windows without coming to you first, you may recall. I mean, there were probably a dozen violations there in addition to replacing windows. And we got absolutely no cooperation from the owner. We went to court. And the owner was instructed to do what HPC had required to be done. I think the standard tonight really is, it's an unfortunate situation. It can happen. We should coordinate better between construction, zoning, and HPC so everybody knows what the rules are. But if the board, and it's not exactly what you'd like to see on this historic property, you can live with the windows as installed, then you would vote yes to leave the windows there. There's nothing we can do to change physically the windows while they're in there. I mean, they're the windows are the windows. So again, you on balance can live with the windows, understanding the burden that there would be cast upon the owner to replace 15 brand new windows again. And also run the risk of Mr. Moore taking us to court, which he has a right to do. But I think real standard is on balance, not happy with it, but can you live with the windows? And if you can, you would vote to allow them to remain. If you can't, you would have them all removed. I think that's really your choice tonight.
Thank you, Ed. All right, are there other questions, comments? And if not, oh yeah, Tom.
I thank Ed for that clarification. It's helpful to me. It seems like there's honest intent here. There also seems to be a lack of dialogue and collaboration within municipal complex building among the various departments. And I've had that personally in my own experience where you're up against building, you're up against environment, you're up against historical preservation. And so again, unfortunately, this seems to require anyone who's making changes to their house to then hire lawyers and get clearance and take time and significant expense before they even get things moving. Seems to me that we have a situation here that was wrought of a circumstance. No malicious intent was undertaken here, no deliberate obstruction of regulation. Maybe there wasn't as good a communication among the departments, or that communicated to the owner in a positive way. I'm not too familiar with all the details of the windows, and I do appreciate the fine points of this as elucidated by our more experienced colleagues. I think this one we have to maybe just take this one on. I would say that to Elric's point, we don't want to set any precedents. And thus, if we do approve this, as I will recommend, we should note in the minutes that we see this as a one-off and that it has arisen for circumstances a little bit beyond our control or our liking. So we might let this go, but we don't want this to be a precedent, and that should be minuted so it can be cited the next time somebody comes up and says, look, what you did for this other person. We'll say, well, we did that as a one-off or a circumstance, but that's not how we want to run this business.
So is that a motion?
I move that we approve. I move that we approve the windows reluctantly with regret, noting that we don't want to make a precedent of this, but realizing that a circumstance has arisen and no bad faith was exhibited by anybody here. It's a situation that occurred. And that we approve this to move the thing along, allow the owner to get on with their selling of her house, yet still reserving our rights and establishing that no precedent should be expected from this episode.
Madam Chair, there's David Shore in the public has his hand up. I'm not sure if he has it up from before or if it's a hand up again.
Well,
I made a motion. Can we get a second first before we?
Yeah, I think we got to deal with Tom's motion first. I think it's, we've allowed David to talk from the public, so I don't really feel like that would be part of the deliberation and not just public comment.
Okay.
Is there a second? And if there isn't a second to Tom's motion, is there another motion? Okay, so we have to do one or the other. So If there isn't a second to Tom's motion, is there another motion?
I will say with great reluctance, I will second his motion.
Okay, let's take it to a vote.
Discussion, any more discussion on the motion?
All right, Elizabeth, do you want to take a roll?
Yes. Mr. Pyle,
Yes,
Ms. Lewandowski,
I abstain.
Mr. Shatskin,
Yeah, also reluctantly, yes.
Ms. Satterfield. Shirley, you're muted.
Yes.
Mr. Endersby,
Yes.
Ms. Capizoli.
Yes,
Motion passed.
okay. Thank you for coming in.
and I just note
Appreciate your
again
time.
to Mr. Schmier that the minutes reflect the reservation about the precedent.
I-
Please.
All right, thank you. And the resolution will come through next meeting so we can make sure that's in the minutes. That's in the resolution.
It'll be in the resolution.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good
So,
night.
good night.
You know, we
So-
have these, we have the various materials and components which are introduced by these individual applications. We learn a little bit as we go, whether it's fake slate or whether it's, you know, the one material or another. And it seems to me like maybe we should individually make a list of some of the ones that we can think of that have already been discussed here. And whether we just include, you know, some description of the project and why these things are important and why we are concerned about inappropriate materials or whatever being introduced. And then maybe that can be joined with what you were talking about before of having people come in and give us a summary of what their intentions are before an application is made.
Right, exactly, concept review. All right, so we have one more application and that's 180 John Street.
They're being brought over. I just want to let the commission members know something about permitting. So windows, replacement windows and replacement of roof, unless they replace the whole roof, the building permit, the building department does not permit for that. That is the state determination. Also, window replacement and roof replacements, the zoning officer never reviews for a permit. Anything like that in the historic district is only with HPC. So when the building department says they don't need a permit, it doesn't mean that historic preservation does not require an application. It just means that building does not require for them to have a permit.
But at that time, can the building department say,
Inform.
like, hey, you're in a historic district, so you need to go to HPC?
They usually don't say that unless they have to sign off on a permit. That's usually the time when they will look it up.
So to that, I'd like to make a suggestion. This is one of the challenges we have just dealing with the different departments. There ought to be a common notice available to anybody who comes into the municipal building and needs to do something to their house, saying, here are all the factors: permit, zoning, HPC. If you have this or that, the other thing, you have to check this out. So that'd be a great help to the homeowners rather than the homeowner having to discover every time the 4 or 5 departments they have to deal with. So let's give that some consideration as a benefit to the citizens here, that we can streamline the process and inform better out of town hall here what exactly is required, if I may suggest.
We could just have somebody put in their address and the requirements pop up, you know.
Right. If it's already in the tax records, then seems like that shouldn't be that difficult to ascertain.
having in the tax record, it says we are in a historic district. That doesn't necessarily signal the homeowner that you got to go get an approval from Historic Preservation Commission. So again, just looking for ways to lean forward and help homeowners know better how to navigate the complexities of all this would be helpful, I think.
All right, so we're moving on to 180 John Street. Do we have the applicants?
Yes, they're brought over. And, but we're missing Christine, so I think, oh. But she can't vote, right?
I have my iPad, so if I walk out of the room, I never miss a word.
All right, thank you. All right. All right, and once we're set, I see Andre here.
And where's Louis? Oh, I don't know what happened. I brought her over twice and for some reason it's not bringing her over. So Louisa Clayton, as everyone knows, is the architect on this project. Okay, now should be coming over. I don't know what's going on.
Okay. And Elizabeth, there we go.
Thank you.
And Elizabeth, if you want to start with just a summary of your report from June 23rd, 2023, that would be great.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. So it's going to be quick because I think most people are familiar with this project and application, but I'll just for the record, I'll state that the applicant, Andre Morov, has filed an application for historic preservation plan review to demolish the existing house foundation and exterior walls. The site is identified as block 17.04, lot 17 on the Princeton tax map with the address of 180 John Street. It's in the R4 zone of the former Princeton Borough within the Witherspoon-Jackson Historic District. Demolition within the historic district requires specific requirements for noticing in the newspaper on the property and notifications to property owners within 200 feet of the property itself. HBC's attorney has reviewed all the material that was submitted to us for the notification, and he had advised that everything is in order and the commission can take jurisdiction for this application. Again, this property is in type 2, which is really from the public right-of-way review, and as Weiss Preservation's inventory has stated that this was a two-story structure built in 1880 in a vernacular style, and it is contributing to the Witherspoon-Jackson Historic District. I had included the original report for the application when they came in for the duplex for those members who were not here for that original application, just for their reference. The lot contains 0.18 acres. It's probably a double lot, so that's why it seems very large. And that's where the applicant received approval for a attached duplex to the existing house that was to be restored and renovated with some modifications. As the commission might recall, there was a request for demolition of the existing house, which they received. I'm sorry, they received the approval for that duplex in 2021, and then 2022 in September they came in for a violation where the roof was taken off and the 3 walls, which was not part of the approval. They came in for that. HBC had approved that, and they had also approved to allow the applicant to take down the face wall facing the street, as long as they replace everything exactly as it was original on the house. The applicant now is coming in to remove the foundation and the existing first floor walls because according to their engineer, with their letter, which is dated February 26, 2023, which is part of the submission, they had stated that these features of the house are now compromised structurally, and he feels that they should come down. So to go just to the comments, after reviewing Providence Engineering's letter, the only thing that I have question about that is he talked about the fact that he was not able to do an internal investigation. So that's a little bit puzzling since a lot of that has to do with the structural stability of that and the walls. But he did have some photographs, but just if the applicant could address why he was not able to have access to the interior. Let's see. So with the violation in 2022, where the roof was removed and the sidewalls, the building was left vulnerable for almost 6 months. And I know that Elric and I had seen that when we were out there looking at a different job site, and he actually pointed out to me. So for a building to be exposed like that to all the elements, you know, there's no, I mean, it's understandable that the foundation and the walls will really get deteriorated over time. I'm sure that that contributed to it. And I am concerned because now that the first one, the foundation is removed, there's really no existing historic fabric to this house, which is really disappointing considering it is a contributing property to the Witherspoon Jackson Historic District. And I guess to me, it seems like the house is slowly being demolished piece by piece. And I really, you know, wonder, was their renovation really, you know, even though it's presented to the HPC, was that really the intent? They were going to really renovate it and approve it? Because right now it's completely a new duplex. It would be a completely new duplex, sorry. And if the HPC does approve the demolition, which, you know, if structurally it's unsound, it doesn't seem like there's, you know, what really can you do? It would seem appropriate that the applicant come back with architectural drawings specifically for this rebuild of this addition. So you know all the details of it, the siding, the window replacements, the roof material and everything, just like you did for the new addition. So that's all I have on this.
All right, I'll hand it over to Andre and Louisa.
Andre, do you want to go first?
Yes. Good evening, everybody. So, originally, so just a little bit of history. So originally we bought this house like 3 years ago in March 2020. Like it was like a last day before coronavirus. So basically, we did not have like idea what are we gonna do with this house. We knew like it was like a double lot. So basically, we had 3 options. So we're gonna like renovate existing house. We're gonna try to add like another house, like as we did like right now because of a double lot, or we're gonna do some whatever, like extend like existing house. So basically, we had 3 options, and we called for structural engineer. So it was like first like question from you, like why we didn't call like a structural engineer before we start the building. So we did. And I'm sorry, I haven't sent reports till today, so I can forward to you. Like I have report from structural engineer from March 5th. It was like Kyle Engineer from Bordentown, New Jersey. So they came, I met them on the job site, and I have report from them. So basically we did not have any issues with the foundation or existing wall, but we had some issue like after we opened. So after we demolished sheetrock and we demolished like a siding as we're supposed to do. So we at this point, so we are not gonna demolish like foundation. So we're gonna keep existing foundation. So it was like it's a little bit like so we're gonna demolish only walls. Foundation will keep existing one. So basically, I've been like went through with John and Dimo Mikhailov, the building inspector from Princeton Township. So basically, we tried to find a way how to fix like existing foundation because the like walls, they did not have any anchor bolts. So no supporting. So basically the foundation is existing. So basically we just like level the foundation and add some bricks to install anchor bolts. So by new code, so we had to install 16-inch anchor bolts to support like walls. So all like after we open sheetrock, after we start do demo, so we found like rotten wood. That's why we called for second structural like engineer report. So basically that's already second one. It wasn't like the first one. I'm gonna forward to you like report from the first one from March 5th. So you can take a look like, so like nothing is report. So basically, and like there is, so they recommend some recommendations what we have to do, because like the floors on first and second floors were unleveled. So, and they were recommended what we have to do like to level these floors. So basically we knew we bought like a house in the Princeton Historical Building. So we knew we're not gonna have a chance to like do like new construction, to build new construction. And again, we are not investors, so we are like kind of owners. So we are not gonna sell this house. So basically, that's like investment to our future. So basically, we're gonna keep these houses, like let's say for rent for our kids, but the houses are not for sale. So and right now, we have like let's say if we are going to sell this house, it was easier for us like just like keep existing frame, like whatever, like do some fixes, like keep existing frame, let's like move forward and just like put the new roof like above the existing house. But right now we're like, let's say we are over budget like about like $100,000. So basically, even to prove we are not gonna demolish existing house, so we have like, let's say I have two proposal from our framing company. So basically, like first invoice, like original invoice was like on $38,000. The final invoice, it was like $48,000. So basically, like original invoice from lumber company was like about $50,000. So far, we are already 75. So it's not like we plan to demolish the house and build a new one. So, and again, so we are not investors, so we are not gonna sell this house. These houses are not for sale. So that's why we try to do like some like nice work. So I mean, that's really, so if we keep existing walls, so it's kind of really dangerous. And already, like I met Dimo, Princeton building inspector, like at the job site, like I would say more than 10 times. So we went through like every moment. What are we gonna do like with this? What are we gonna do with this? So I know that we already passed sheeting inspection. So basically, half house has already like siding. So another has like, so we are not gonna change like, so basically I know like the main points. So building is supposed to have the same look as we proposed. It's going to have same look, absolutely the same. So same windows, same sizing, same color. So everything the same. It wouldn't change any like anything like where we proposed before and you already approved. So just like because of rotten, a lot of, and again, so walls are there. So if anyone wants me to meet over there and go through, so it's not like we remove the wall and and right now we try to excuse, oh, no, you know what, we just remove the walls and right now, I'm sorry, but the walls are still there. So if everybody want to take a look, absolutely, like welcome, I can meet and show everybody why we are trying to remove the walls and what like are we going to do instead. So it's very simple. So we're not, and before we apply for you guys to meet you, so we've talked with John and Dimo. So and they said like I asked them, what are we gonna do? Like, are we like, is it going to be like new permit or what are we gonna do? Said like same permit, so you just have to have approval from them, and you already did whatever we wanted, and they already checked what needs to be checked. So basically, they are not gonna have any problems. So and they said like, but the most important point right now, have approval from you guys from HPC. So that's why we did not like remove any walls since we had the last meeting like a year ago.
I
Thank
see.
you.
So are there questions?
So can I just jump in? So, Julie?
Sure.
Sorry, excuse me. So just to reiterate what Andre's been saying, I'm extremely sorry that you think that this was the intention from the very beginning. I was actually kind of shocked to read that in there. But I think, like Andre said, that it has not been the intention at all. We've come back actually several times, and I mean, I'm happy to share my screen and show a couple of the pictures, but you all have them in the packet. I included them, but I do think that Andre, you know, and his partner, they're not big developers. They're not a big company. These are two guys who have actually day jobs who do this, and they saw real potential in the neighborhood, in the house, on the lot. And they are building this for themselves, either to rent or eventually to live in some fashion. And so I do think that their intentions are, you know, good for the community. I mean, this is ultimately going to become their community. And so I just wanted to reiterate that, you know, not everybody can, you know, especially with the pandemic falling, they bought the house literally right before the pandemic hit this area. And so the idea that they purchased the house in April of 2020, we did all the drawings. I know we came to you guys several times for the original approval that we were given in April of 2021, so a full year after we purchased the house. And then the pandemic was totally, you know, full on at that point, and you know, construction was delayed for a bit. And then once it started, even then there were everybody's aware of all the supply chain delays, labor shortages. These guys were doing this, you know, in addition to their own jobs. I mean, they own other companies that they run. And so I guess I just want to sort of take a step back and just say that, you know, I think these guys are really, you know, doing something intentional here for the betterment of the community. And we've all worked really hard. I've worked really hard with them. I'm just like coming in to help them. You know, I'm not like going to the site every week and getting paid every week for construction issues. I'm not doing that. You know, every time they need a little bit of help, I'm willing and happy to come and help them, because I think what they're doing is really good for the neighborhood. And I completely understand the historic importance of the home and everything about, you know, what this house represents for the neighborhood. But I also think that it's going to be a lot of people like these guys coming in and renovating these homes. And I do think that, you know, when when the first structural engineer came, it was right before they bought the house. So nothing had been demoed. You know, trees and ivy were growing all over the foundation, which is, you can see in the pictures I gave you. And, you know, they were only able to comment on what they could see. And then once they really got into the you know, the weeds of the construction, that's when you really start to dig into things and like, wait, today we're going to put the sill plates on and we're going to check the foundation. Well, oh gosh, actually this foundation looks terrible and there are 3 trees growing out of it. You know, maybe we should really go back and reevaluate how we're going to handle this. And that's not something that you necessarily do, you know, the day you buy the house. So I guess I'm just asking you all for some, you know, understanding for what these guys have been through, what they're going through, and what their real intentions are. I mean, I'm certainly not in a position to pull the wool over your eyes. Ideally, hopefully, we'll be back in front of you on several more projects for the next 10, 15 years I have in my career. I don't want to burn any bridges here. You know, that's certainly not my intention. And if I didn't think that these guys were the real deal, I wouldn't be here tonight. They would just be here on their own. So I don't want to take up too much time. I know this meeting has gone very long, but I did want to just, you know, say that. So I appreciate you hearing us.
Well, we appreciate your input, and I just wanted to go over what happened again. So the first structural engineer looked at it, thought it was okay, and then you found out that there were no anchor bolts.
So Julie, excuse me, the first structural engineer looked at the house on March 5th, 2020, before they purchased the home.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't see anything then.
Mm-hmm. And then as you took the wall off, you realized that the existing foundation was not stable enough to put a
Yes,
new wall.
absolutely. And you can always like look at this moment, like today, tomorrow. So basically, haven't changed since.
Right. And so did then the building department said this is not, like, you're gonna have to replace this, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so I just want to make that clear to everybody what the process was, so we know what we're talking about. So then the application here is to allow for the demolition of that existing foundation.
No, not foundation. So foundation is the same. So we are keeping existing foundation. So foundation we are trying to fix, but
So the demolition,
demolition of the walls, yes.
oh, just the walls?
Yeah, just the
Okay.
walls, yes.
Just the wall,
We're
okay,
not
got
going
it.
to demolish-
So you're modifying your application because your application came in for foundation and walls.
No, not
That
foundation.
was probably my misunderstanding about the whole thing.
Okay, because the drawings show the foundation to be removed too. So you're saying
Okay,
that
I
the
can
foundation
certainly
is going
modify
to-
that.
the foundation's going to stay and you're going to take down the walls.
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay, good.
So we are
That's what-
trying to fix foundation and getting the walls.
Okay, so,
Point of clarification, obviously, we've seen this before, and Louisa, I presume you fully documented the existing house that's there, right?
Yeah, someone else did that for me, but it was drawn up. The existing drawings are drawn, yeah.
So in order to replicate it, you have the information you would need to do that.
So Elric, in the original approval that you gave us in April of 2021, we were already replacing all the windows, we were already replacing all the siding, we were already replacing the roof. And
Right.
none of those materials are changing. And so therefore, I'm not sure what more information I can give to you because we've already gotten approval from you for, I mean,
Right. I'm not asking for more information. I just want to ascertain that that information exists so that you would be using that for your the new replacement plan. Am I correct on that?
well, we were already replacing it on the original plan.
Yeah. No, I'm not
So yeah,
challenging.
yes. So I guess the answer is yes.
Okay.
all right, and then, I don't, who wrote in the chat, if we want to see recent pictures of 180?
I can share what I sent to you in your packet. Want me to do that want me to share my screen? It's in your packet.
Oh, yeah. And we all did receive that,
Yeah,
so, we have it.
13 color copies.
Yep, we have it. So I guess the question is, whether or not, like, are there, and, obviously we have photographs here.
Oh, yeah, the walls are still there. So basically you can take a look. It's not only picture. So the
Yeah.
walls are still there, so and really easy to take a look.
So I hope everybody got to see all the photos we received. And thank you. This is a lot of information.
And only if you guys need the drawings, because township, they don't need any new drawings. So basically only if you need it. So Louise, I guess, have to correct the existing drawings because I've talked to Dima, they said they just need like letter from Louisa to how are we gonna fix foundation.
Okay,
They are not gonna need like any new drawings because we are going to keep like all existing same sizes wall, same sizes windows, same siding. So basically we keep everything the same. It's already ordered and they're sitting like we're just waiting for approval from you guys to remove the walls and get to put new windows. But they're all the same size that they ordered 6 months ago.
okay. So with that, are there any questions before I open this up to the public? Tom?
Yes, just to
And-
clarify, on the two pictures, the first picture is a picture of the old foundation what is actually the second picture? Is that an image of the repair underway of the foundation,
Yeah.
right?
Do you want
And,
me? Yeah.
and am I understanding that there's gonna be block laid or cement poured to fortify the existing stone foundation?
Yes, we put the block because we need to put the anchor bolts, and there was no way to put anchor bolts like in the stones. So
Right,
that's why we raised like a little bit of blocks to put like 16-inch anchor bolts.
right. So this is gonna be beside the existing foundation then,
Existing also, it's gonna touch existing foundation.
top of?
So they go through, yes, like a
Okay.
couple, like let's say, I would say 5 inches.
5 inches.
Yes, about 5 inches.
Okay.
Okay. Christine, and then Shirley.
Thank you. What I was wondering, there were several questions. When this was apparently deteriorating because no work was being done, was there any kind of tarp put on it or some way of securing it against the weather?
No,
No?
that against weather of what? So because even when you build like new house, you don't have to like put the tarp, like let's say before you put the new roof. It's not because of it was open like all the time, it's because of age. So when we like first pictures we have like after we demolished Shitrek, it was like almost 2.5 years ago.
But Andre,
That's
when the roof and the walls on the second floor were removed, there was no tarp on that building
No,
for
no,
those 6
we
months.
did not
It
have
was
any tarp,
exposed.
but we start do demo like after we have approval from you guys, and we start to demo Shitrek, like this. The roof was still on, and after we removed Shitrek, we already had those pictures with like rotten wood, like all over the house. It's not because of rain, so it can't be like from rain, because let's say the new houses, like they stay like without roof like 2-3 months, and they're not affected. The rain is not affected to like wood, like even like we still have wood on the job site, which is like there like for a year right now, and they're still good.
Well,
And we keep
I just
them
wanna-
outside. We keep wood outside without any tarp.
Well, I do want to say that some of your pictures do seem to represent that there's a moisture problem, which is not just from basement moisture, but like a lot of moisture.
A lot, yes.
Fluid.
Moisture, yes.
Well, what I wanted to say is that it seems like this house falls under the ordinance demolition by neglect, which means if you don't take care of a property and it declines in structure, etc., you're actually demolishing it in the long run. So I don't understand why some of this wasn't protected. The other thing that I was wondering, these walls are going to be coming down now, if it's approved. Are any zoning violations going
No.
to occur because you're going to need a zoning permit to redo them? Will that affect any zoning? Because once the walls are down, you don't have it protected against.
No, they're not gonna need any zoning permit, nothing. So basically, like in the same spot, we're just gonna build like new walls.
So I
So
talked to
it's
the
gonna
zoning
change square
officer
footage.
about it.
You're not gonna change any square footage inside in the house or outside of the house.
So I did talk to the zoning officer about this application, and he will want drawings because he wants to ensure that the dimensions are the same
Absolutely same
as
dimensions.
before. And that's one of the
Absolutely the
reasons
same.
that's important to have new
We
architecture.
are not going to change any dimensions.
And then-
Nothing's changing, nothing's changing.
Same square
What you've
footage.
already approved and what Derek already approved and what, I
But
guess-
he is going to look at it for zoning
Absolutely.
anyway,
Absolutely.
Okay.
because it's a new structure.
Absolutely.
And
But
another,
it's the same foundation, right? So the walls are gonna be in the same location as they
Yeah,
are.
same foundation. They're not gonna.
It
It's
doesn't
already
matter if
like
it's the same
1.28 feet
foundation.
off the property line, like it's all the same. We're not making, we can't possibly make it worse than it already is.
all right, so I just have another question. The roof has been redone already? Is that the
Yes.
case or not?
Yes,
Okay, that's what I thought. So that structure is going to be saved in some way,
yes.
right? Okay. Is there any?
Wait, what are you asking, Christine? It's a new roof.
Right. Okay, but it's going to be saved in some way if walls are going to be demolished.
Yes,
So what I was wondering is most of the rot and deterioration of the wood that is on the bottom, which rests on the foundation, is there any way of just replacing that wood and lifting it up to rebuild the first floor that supports the second floor?
there's no way. It's impossible. I mean,
You're gonna save the roof structure anyway. What are you gonna do with the roof structure?
so we just so far, so with the double wall. So basically, so we built a new wall like inside, and we still keep it. Foundation is 24 inches. So the old original foundation is about 24 inches thick. So if we can like, so our like existing wall is about 3 inches, right? Like it's 3 by 3, like it's some kind of old wood. So basically, the new wall was built like inside, and already like a roof is staying on the new wall. So basically, we've talked with the demo like how are we gonna do? Like let's say if we are not allowed to remove the walls. So basically, he said you just have to build like double wall, like build a new one and extend existing one. But just for us, there's no reason to extend existing one. Just remove it and that's it.
And the
I
windows,
think it's the right way. Right way is supposed to be.
the windows were not going to be replaced or not, because I wasn't there for
No,
the.
you guys already approved like new replace of old windows and new one. So
Okay.
windows are gonna have like same spot, same size, and same dimensions. So basically, we are not going to change any location of windows, any size of windows, any color of windows. Like everything will be same as we proposed.
Okay, Shirley, oh, sorry, Ed, go ahead.
No, Julie, I just wanted to ask Andre, in the materials submitted, there's a letter here to Louisa from the construction, the civil engineer. And he said the existing walls and foundations should not be reused with new construction. New foundation walls with a pressure treated sill should be constructed and used. And we're being told tonight that you're going to use this foundation?
Yes, we found the so.
Well, what are you throwing away this report you got?
Whoa, Ed, no, it's just that Andre has worked with the building inspector to figure out a way where they can shore up the existing foundation so that it doesn't have to be demolished.
Did John Pantinati, the building constructor, have they seen this letter?
Yes.
They have.
Yes.
Well,
Oh.
I showed him that letter and they said they can't object to demolition because they feel that that engineer, who they assume is a structural engineer, is, giving his a professional opinion. So, and I understand what Ed's saying, so that your structural engineer is saying this is compromised, but you're saying that you're going to try to fix it.
She was talking, so if you know like this house, like before this, the original house, like it was like a one size, and they add addition, looks like without any permits and approvals. So it was like kind of like on the back of the house, I would say it was like addition. So I would say like 20 by 10 roughly. So it would need like new foundation, because it wasn't like any foundation. So it was only like a blocks, like not even concrete blocks. It was just regular bricks. So the building did not have any foundation, like an addition, like on the back of the house. So that's what we put a new one, like on top of existing one. So we put a new footing and new foundation. Like it's on the back of the house. It's like I would say the area is 10 feet by 20 feet. So that's what we put like kind of a new foundation. Again, so if you guys, so everything is open. So I don't want to lie you. So you can stop by and take a look, or I can show whatever who wants to stop by and what are we like, where we are right now and what are we going to try to do.
Well, clearly, we want you to be safe and we want you to do the right thing. But at the same time,
I
I
understand that.
think we do want, if you can approve, if you can safely preserve the foundation, then that would be a good thing from our perspective, but only if you could do it safely.
Absolutely, everything's safe.
Okay, because the letter makes it sound like you can't do it safely. So we want to make sure that this project is safe, but we
This project
also
is
want
absolutely
you
safe.
to preserve it, so.
This project is absolutely safe. So and and all over like around the whole house. So we put a new seal with pressure treated 2x6s. Everything you can see it right now, and everything we've been seen like with the building inspector.
Okay, all right, Shirley, you had a comment.
Yes, Christine asked my question. The question was, when it was sitting there all those years, why wasn't it protected? And you already answered that. I pass that house every day. That's Miss Onita Campbell's house. It saddens me as it saddens her family and for those of us in this community that that structure was not saved. My question is, who is moving into, either one of you moving into that house?
Yes,
Which one? You're moving in?
I'm not. So my partner Konstantin,
So are you developers?
no, we're not developers. So I have my own heating and air conditioning company. He has his own roofing company. So we are not developers. So we're not. It's not our business. So just like, so let's say we are. So our idea is just build the houses right now and just probably like for rent, and it's going to stay for our kids.
I'm still not understanding which one of you is moving into the house.
Konstantin, like my partner.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm just, and is the frontage going to remain as it is? The part that you have there, that this is the only part of the house?
As one more time, I can hear you. As you're talking about parking?
No, I'm talking about the porch, the front, the
No,
original
the porch will
porch.
stay the same, yes. It would be like new roof, but the porch will stay the same. New roof for the porch would be new one, but the porch will keep the same.
Okay, other questions, comments? If not, oh, Tom?
This is a confusing case to me. It sounds like, and I wasn't involved in the earlier decision, so please forgive me if I'm speaking naively. I'm speaking generally to the commission. But sounds like we have some concern about the safety here and some concern about the deterioration, not necessarily by neglect, but it's been somewhat rapid. And so are we confident that the plans as being articulated here are going to pass muster? I hope they can be saved, but do we need a comment from somebody who's in a position to attest to us that Andre's plans are workable, and get everybody in the chain to sign this thing, the building people, the
Well, the
building
safety
people,
is
so on?
definitely under the auspices of the building department.
Mhm.
And we're here to comment on the preservation plan application and the changes that they're making. And my understanding is they came in with an application to demolish both the foundation and the
Mhm.
walls, but now they're saying they can make the foundation work safely and they only need to demolish the walls.
Mhm.
Yes.
So that's what I'm assuming is the
And we suppose
matter at hand.
and the building department's going to approve this. We can depend,
Yes.
they will have something to say about this that we can then rely on as we consider the historical
Well,
aspects.
they're continually inspecting this work.
Yeah.
So they're on
times.
site multiple times inspecting the stages of work.
Mhm.
Um,
Okay.
And
So,
I often provide letters or other sketches or drawings to the building department so that they can inspect the work and pass. the
So
work.
we've heard of two
That's fine, but
potential.
that's not what's happening here. That's, yeah,
Okay.
but I can do that if they ask.
All right, just trying to be clear, because I've heard two inconsistencies. One is the letter that Ed mentioned here. The other is what Elizabeth has mentioned, which is now the plan is revised essentially because the foundations are not to be demolished. Have I understood that correctly?
Yes.
All right.
okay,
So
So
this
we
needs to be
found it- we
memorialized as
found-
part of the
yeah.
process, I think, so we fully understand what we're actually being asked to
Yes,
decide. on.
together with the building inspector, Timo, so we found a way how we can save foundation. So basically, when you demo foundation, so it's going to be new construction house. So if you keep foundation, so it's going to be alteration. So it's not going to be new construction.
All right,
okay.
all
That's,
right, fine.
that's
So-
what I've been told by the township.
Okay, so are there more questions or should I open it up to the public?
A quick question. I'm losing my battery on my computer. I'm trying to get on a second one. If I disappear, that
As he's doing right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
We'll
Uh-oh,
stand by.
yeah.
Julie, are you supposing that a resolution is going to emerge from this discussion?
Yeah, I mean, as far as I can tell, Elizabeth and Ed, if they amend their application to only ask for demolition of the walls and not the foundation, are we allowed to proceed?
Yes, you can do that because it's less, not more.
Right,
So this application is for permission to demolish the walls.
Okay,
And as I understand it, implement the prior plan in 2021 that you all approved for this house.
Yes.
And
Right.
if there was to be a motion to approve it, I would suggest the standard condition of approval would be that the applicant has to get all the necessary permits from Princeton in order to implement the plan. And I think candidly, we'll make sure, and maybe Luisa's already done this, but we'll send down this letter to John Patinati for the file to make sure he has it.
right. Okay, so I don't know if Roger, if you could see if there's anyone in the public that has their hand up, because I see Elizabeth's on the phone.
I see Josh Zinder has his hand up.
Okay,
And there's another raised hand. Hold on a second.
Are you open for public comments now, Julie?
yeah,
Okay, Josh, we're gonna bring you over.
Kathleen Carroll too.
all right. And if everyone could just limit their comments to about 3 minutes, that would be great.
Hi, am I on? Do I
Yep.
need-
Yes.
Do you-
Josh, can you put your camera on?
I'm working on it. Yeah, good. All right.
Great.
So I am an adjacent property owner, 30 McLean across the street from this property. Most of the architects for the two adjacent properties on either side. And I don't really have a comment, it's more of a question. What happens if you turn this application down?
Well, then you basically sound like it would be an unsafe situation.
I mean, I'm just trying to understand. Certainly, it has implications beyond this singular project. So it's just a question. Thank you.
Is that it, Josh?
And that's it.
Okay. Okay, we're gonna bring over, Carol, let's see. Join as an attendee. We're gonna, Kathleen Carroll, will bring her over again. She's talked on the other one. And then we'll have John Parker, so I'll line them up.
Okay, hold on a second.
Hi again.
Hi, am I showing up?
Yep.
Okay. My name is Kathleen Carroll. I live at 167 John Street. So I think, as Shirley said, you know, we see this property every day and it's been very painful because it's been a mess and it is next to Josh's property, which is also a mess. So, but doesn't seem to have the same problems that this one does. I'm not sure where to start. I think this, if I take Mr. Marav at his word that this was not intentional, that it was not demolition by neglect, which is what I believe, then I have to think that the partners were kind of incompetent not to protect the structure when the roof was taken off, or even before. The house was in pretty bad shape when they bought it. I looked at this house myself when it was on the market. And it really, as you said, it had additions and they didn't match up, and it was just kind of a real mess, including the foundation in the basement. So I guess my feeling is that this property illustrates a problem I have with the whole historic designation for the Witherspoon Jackson neighborhood. The consultants who looked at our neighborhood said there's nothing special about any particular property or the architecture except streetscape, which is, you know, the houses close to the sidewalk and the front porches primarily. So in my opinion, this house should have been demolished from the get-go, and new structure with front porches should have been built. You know, then it could have been pushed back a foot from the sidewalk and pushed back a foot or two from the neighbors, because it's sitting right, almost right on the property line. Yeah, I have a problem with the whole way the historic designation affects building new properties in the neighborhood or renovating properties. So anyway, I wish you could just slap a big fine on Mr. Moore and his partner and let them demolish what they need to demolish and get the work done as quickly as possible. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other?
Yes, John Parker is already brought over.
Okay.
Mr. Parker, if you could turn on your camera.
That's Mrs. Parker.
Are you seeing and hearing me?
Yep, we're hearing you.
Okay.
We're seeing you.
Okay. Well, I want to thank the commission for all the time they spent on this, and just say that it's clear to me that they did not go the way that they should have gone with this project from the start. I live at 188 John Street, so I'm about 2 properties down the street from this. And I watched them take half of this house down without approval. There was a permit in the window for some electrical and some plumbing renovation. And under that permit, they took half of a historic structure down. And then it was left open. That was in January of 2022. And it was left open for the better part of the year with the wind and the rain. Nothing to protect it. So it's not surprising to me that it all has to be taken down now. But it seems to me that the owner must have known it had to be taken down for some time, and they continued to build around it as if they were saving it. So I think there was a little wool pulled over the eyes about this. I don't think it was totally on the up and up. I do understand that with these houses, you get in there and you find things you didn't understand. I totally understand it in the back where there was an addition that had an unsound foundation that had been added on, or maybe even no real foundation that they had to do that. But it does seem like bit by bit, this house has been torn down without permission. And that's not really the way things are supposed to work. I have observed the Historic Commission give people grief for much smaller changes. I'd suggest that it's not all that effective to have a Historic Commission if people are allowed to just tear down houses a bit at a time with gradually increasing permission. So having said all that, I am very happy with what they're building. And I think we do need higher density in this town. I'm totally supportive of building higher density housing within our neighborhood and using up empty lots. And I really am not objecting to what is going to be there. It's more like the process by which we got there, which I think really stinks. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. All right. Anyone else with their hand up?
Let me just see. Oops. There are no other hands up, although I see Elric over there twice.
Oh,
I'm not
Well,
sure why.
can
I'm gonna
you,
try
maybe
to-
you can bring him back here?
I'll bring both of them over.
Yeah. All right.
Yes.
So,
There are no
I
other
think-
hands. Thank you.
all right, thank you. So I think the matter at hand is whether or not we approve the demolition of the walls, not the foundation. And with the requirements that they replicate the original house as per the application that was approved. So are there, or not. So is there a motion to do that?
Madam Chair, can I just ask something? Oops, I'm going to try to mute Elric. I'd like to ask the applicant's architect what she feels about trying to preserve that foundation with a structural report that she had received from, the letter that the HBC has a copy of. The reason that I say that is because, I mean, if they're able to save it, as you said, it's important that it's safe. But at the same time, are we going to have them coming back 2 months later saying, yeah, we can't fix it? We actually are going to come back and ask to demolish it. So, and again, this is like a bad pattern. And so as their architect, I'd like to hear what Louisa has to say about that.
Okay, well, I actually think that since the original intent was not to take the house down, that us coming back periodically when we discover things that are wrong to ask your permission for it is not a bad thing. However, I do think that that letter, I can go back and I can clarify it with the structural engineer. That letter may have been talking about the, is there an echo?
It's an echo. It is hard to hear you. I don't know where it's coming from.
Okay.
Julie, you're muted.
Sorry, I was telling
Christie, you're
everyone to
muted
mute.
too.
What? What did you say?
I think it's better.
Okay. So I think that there was maybe some confusion about which foundation we were talking about not being stable, and I think certainly the ones in the rear, which is just loose brick essentially, were not stable. And then the ones in the front were a little bit more stable, and they're wider, and they, I think that that's what Andre and the building inspector have been speaking about together for weeks and weeks and months about how they could save those, which is actually the foundation in the front of the house on the street side and on the side that's seen from the street. Nobody sees the back anyway from the street. So, so I think that maybe is part of the confusion, and I'm certainly happy to get that clarified. in a revised letter, and we will certainly get the details, organized so that we're sure that everything, passes code and passes inspections, and that this house is built safely so that, people can live here for another 150 years very, very happily and safely in this neighborhood. That's the intention.
Okay, thank you. So I think this picture is what's talking about adding the block to the foundation to create a stabilization of the existing foundation. But in any case, it would be great if we could follow up with you. So given that it's getting late, is there a motion out there?
I'll try
Tom,
one.
Okay,
I move that we approve the demolition of the walls in a manner consistent with the original approval, noting that this is now more restrictive than our original approval. Subject to all clarifications coming forward as necessary to help us better understand the project. This is in line with Ms. Clayton's point of view, and subject to all the subject to all the necessary permits being fully in hand. This I move for the purpose of expediting this and moving it along, but also noting that we're watching this now. There's something not quite right about this. The neighbors are upset with this. There are some concerns about the safety. The information before us is not consistent. We're not to be trifled with here. Let's get all this cleaned up and let's get this on a very good path to move it forward expeditiously as everybody wishes, especially the owner. But we got to get this right. So in moving this motion, I do so again wanting to minute all these particular concerns to say that we really want this to move, this process to improve.
thank you. Is there a second?
I'm over 2 tonight.
Really, no one will second? Tom's, yes. Roger's seconding. You're on mute, Roger.
Sorry, if you can repeat it in 30 words.
I
That's what I'm
don't
hoping
think
Ed can
that's
help me do.
possible. All right, so I think that's a second. I think we'll go to a vote.
Okay, Madam Chair, could I just ask on that motion, with this, are we asking for new architectural plans to be submitted? So we have a documentation of basically a new construction, and that can also be reviewed by the zoning officer.
I think we would want to ask the zoning officer for, like, they would need to provide the zoning officer with whatever information he needed, but if all the information is contained on the previous application, then they can use that.
So Louisa, do you recall, I don't recall, if all the information on the existing building, all the dimensions that are available on your original submission?
Yes, they are.
Okay, all right. I know that you have the exterior replacements, but just the dimensions and everything like that, and the height of the building. Okay.
Ulrich has his hand up.
Okay, sorry. Elric, where are you?
I don't even see him.
I'm not seeing him.
His name.
Yeah, he's up without a video.
And he's muted.
Oh, and he's got his hand up?
Can you hear him?
No.
Wait, here he is. He's over in the other public. So many of him.
He's on my screen next to Leighton.
Yeah,
I know.
I'm bringing him over, I hope. I'm trying. Let's see. Let me see if I can. Oh, I missed a call from him. Sorry. Oh, is he coming over?
Maybe he lost his battery.
He said he went to go get another computer, so he should. So I'm just calling him to see. I don't know why I can't bring him up.
So Elizabeth,
Yeah, so he's on, some reason we can't bring him over, but he can vote through my phone.
okay. Okay, thank you. So I guess we have a motion, we have a second, and now let's vote.
Okay. You would like me to do roll call?
Yes.
Okay.
Before we do the roll call, can I just clarify whether the motion includes periodically back to us?
Yes.
It does, okay.
Okay,
I'm sorry, it includes what?
Periodically
Kind of
coming
reporting.
back to the commission to, go over what you guys are doing.
Well, they need to proceed with the building department and with all the permits and with zoning. So there's gonna be multiple officials visiting them.
So I'm going
And-
back to what Louisa said, that she's okay with, or she's happy to come back to us periodically
Right.
to go over, right?
Oh, no, I didn't say that. I said that
Oh.
the owner has periodically, very often, in fact, met with the building inspector.
Oh, okay, so I misunderstood that, okay.
I think Louisa was saying that she, as an architect, has come by multiple times for different projects, so she wants to be, cooperative.
Sure, of course, yeah, okay.
Okay,
I would just like to say that's intended in my motion. I'm hoping that this process can be expedited, improved, and better communicated.
okay.
So can we read the motion again that we're voting on, please?
did I do
Let me
the
try
roll-
to summarize it again. Motion to approve the demolition of the walls, consistent with the application originally submitted and approved. Taking note of also the requirement for all clarifications to be brought forward and for all necessary permits to be demonstrated.
Okay,
Okay. Mr. Pyle,
Yes.
Ms. Lewandowski.
If Elric is voting, I can't vote.
Oh, I see. My apologies.
So if you lose him, then I'll come in.
Okay, and Ed, is it okay that Elric votes with my phone?
As long as you can identify him on the phone, sure. I'm here.
Okay. Mr. Endersby,
Yes.
Ms. Capizoli,
yes.
Ms. Satterfield,
Can I abstain or do I have to say yes or no?
you can abstain.
I abstain.
Mr. Shatskin,
Yes,
Ms. Howard.
Yes.
I think we lost, oh, no, there it is. Excuse me, Mr. Shore.
Yes.
Motion passed.
All right. Now, we really hope you guys can straighten all this out and create a beautiful new replica of the house.
Almost we are.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Your time.
Thank you. Oh, boy, this is a long meeting. We let you go, Ed. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ed.
Julie, may I excuse myself? I have a
Yeah.
7:15 down in Hamilton. I'm so sorry I have to run.
Absolutely, no problem. Thank you, Tom. See
Good
you
to be with you
later.
all as always. Thank you.
Straighten up your
Thank you.
tie, Tom.
Yeah, I know. I
Yeah.
gotta work on that. I gotta get a minute.
It
Thank you.
looks good, but cut it, straighten it up.
Yeah. So one last thing, I just really want to say that Christine and the subcommittee for the master plan have done an amazing job. Their draft is absolutely beautiful. It's weeks of work. The proposed districts are clear, they're concise, it's amazing. It's amazing work. And I hope they accept every word of it, because I don't think anything should be cut from that draft. It's really, really good.
We get
And
to
I
see
know-
it?
I know you, David and Roger were actively helping with that, and Elric. And anyway, I just want to tell you guys how much I appreciate those efforts, because I was worried, and that master plan draft is beautiful.
Do we get
Thank
to
you.
see it?
Yeah, Shirley, I sent it with my link. on
Okay.
Friday.
Thank you.
If you have any comments,
Thank you.
no. You
Oh,
know,
it's really good.
typo or whatever.
Yeah, and I want to thank the subcommittee also. I mean, you know, they showed up twice a week for 2 hours for each meeting for several weeks, and they worked on their own independently and came together and emailed things to each other. So it was a great collaborative effort, and there was, you know, couldn't have been done without, and all of them contributed.
It's 10 times better than what Clark Caton Hints could have done. So it's really it's far beyond the level of what they could have done. It really is. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and I think that was the problem. I think that they felt that historic preservation was not going to be represented by the consultant, and they had to do a good job, and they did. They did a great job.
Maybe
You're-
they expect such a good job, but now they have it.
No, it was really, honestly, you guys, you are ensuring the preservation of Princeton, 50, 100 years in the future. It's really important. It was really important work. So.
Thank you. There's a
It's-
master plan meeting tomorrow also. Thank you. Thank you all.
How are those
Thank you.
meetings going, Shirley?
Pardon me?
How are those meetings going?
Fine.
Okay.
There's one from 2 to 4 tomorrow.
So just let them know
Mhm.
we're represented.
That's what I'm gonna say. Yeah. I have can I make a comment? I was listening to Frida talking about the house, the Robeson House, and whether or not we can go back on our agreements. I had talked to Kevin Wilkes, and Elizabeth was with me one time. I talked with him another time. And when I agreed to that, all I saw at that time, as I told you all, were the columns. I had not seen the back of it. The back of it is too dark. And I asked him if he would paint over the bricks. And what he wanted to do was to have each brick be named by people. I said, no, we don't want that to happen. But I'm working with him on painting those bricks, and also the 2 signs. Only one sign is supposed to be on that building. And that's the one that I did years ago that went up by the door. The other one, the historic preservation, the historic sign needs to be in the front of the building. So those 2 things he needs to come back to the commission about. Is that correct? Okay, thank you.
I don't know, Julie, I think that it could probably be done administratively, right?
Mhm.
Because the sign that Shirley's talking about is their tour sign that the HBC had approved. And I think when Kevin wanted to put on the building, he just felt that it would be better there, but he didn't consult with the group, who had done the tour and realized that it needed, because it's already constructed. And it's
It's already done, and it already has a stand, so it
Yeah.
can't go on the building.
So,
It's-
yeah, so it's designed and already built to be in the ground. So that's why she said it has to go in the ground. So, but surely and I think that if you just write a letter with the changes, I think that Julie and I could probably review, because it's been so short since the last
Okay.
time that we had it approved, that we could just reverse whatever we need.
Got it, okay.
Right.
Thank you for
Yes.
pushing, for trying still.
Thank you.
Yes.
Speaking of reversals, we have, in the beginning of the meeting, we were talking about some roofing that was approved because, and Ed explained, are we going to revisit that, or we're going to discuss it?
That's the Springdale house, Springdale, the president's house, Julie.
Oh, yeah, and Elric was saying that he feels confident after getting that information that it was cedar.
No, no, and I think that we realized that it was cedar, but in their package, they had photos that showed the cedar had scallop.
But
ends
then,
that was
but
cut.
then he said that it didn't. So then, did you hear him at the beginning of the meeting?
I couldn't really hear everything. I'll
Yeah.
follow up with him and
Okay,
see. But
because he said no, and so
well, which is very
anyway.
interesting because their submission is by what's her name? Annabelle, and she actually states in there that it's scalloped. And she
Okay,
attaches the
so
photograph.
you should talk to Elric because
I will. I'll talk to
he's
him. I know
been-
that we had asked Dennis for additional photographs, but I don't want to go there.
he's been really involved with this. So
Okay,
I'm
yep.
confident that they're going to proceed in the right way.
Well, they're not going to put scallops. They already said that.
Right.
But I'll talk to him and see what, he might have sent him additional information independent of what.
Yeah, he's been over there since we've been there.
Okay. Oh, he has. Okay.
Mhm.
I'll follow up with him then.
Yeah. So is
Okay.
there, it's getting kind of late. I'm so sorry, guys. Is there anything else, Christine?
Two things. I was wondering what happened with the solar violation on, what was it, Birch?
Oh, July.
Vital.
They're coming in July.
Yes.
They
So,
get a letter from, an Ed about violations, et cetera. Are they
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
come in? Are they really gonna come in?
well, so he sent a letter to them stating that if they don't come in, meaning this month, that we were going to take them to court. And what happened is their attorney for the solar company reached out to him and says, please push us to the next month. So I think that they want to prepare. And so he decided, okay, we're just going to wait one more month. And in fact, building was going to issue a violation fine to them because it's been so many months.
Oh, yeah.
And so
So-
I asked John, I said, let's just wait. We're gonna give them another chance. You know, we'll let them come in July. Is that July? Yeah. And, you know, not that he still couldn't issue one, but, you know, we want to give him an opportunity to discuss it.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
One last thing, I'm really concerned about it seems like so many people are just doing work without permits or without approvals, and it's just.
It's enforcement. And that's the thing.
Well, it's
is
rampant
if-
too.
If Elizabeth had any kind of support staff, if she had another person, if she had another like part of the office that was assisting, you know, we can't put all this enforcement on Elizabeth. That's not fair.
I know that, I know.
So then it's like, we have to somehow get budget money for enforcement, for support staff, for other people to be part of this whole process. And that's getting our council people to support an extra staff person.
But I don't
So-
think that, I don't feel that I can go to them and say, because it's kind of like a broken record, honestly.
But
And
I think like
it
David, I
has to
think David
come-
went to Layton. So I definitely think I've gone to Mia, I've talked to David Cohen.
We tried to make it a strong theme in the master plan document that we put together. and
I
hopefully
saw
that'll
that,
help.
and that's excellent.
Yeah.
But the thing is, when I was doing historic preservation, I also was doing many other things, and it was very hard for me to really concentrate on historic preservation in the way that I would have liked. And Elizabeth's really having the same kind of whatever. I actually threatened to just leave, and I think the chair and maybe a few more other members went to, well, I know that they went to the to township committee, but they also might have gone to the administrator. And I'm just
I
saying.
think we did both.
Yeah, it's something has to be done, and Elizabeth is right. She doesn't feel comfortable.
Right. I mean, part of it is after the consolidation, there was no money set aside for extra support, even though the district's almost doubled in size.
Right, exactly.
So this has been an ongoing issue. I brought it up at the planning board retreat. And I'll bring it up again with council people, but the council determines the budget. So, yeah, David.
Frida may have had her hand up first.
Oh, no, I don't, my hand's not up. I'm sorry.
Okay. And I forgot if it comes back to me, I'll put my hand up again.
All right. Well, anyway, it's already after 7. I should let you go, but I appreciate your help and I really, really appreciate all the work on the master plan. It was really great. All right. So
Thank you.
good night,
Thank
everybody.
you. Peace
Good night.
out.
Thank you. Peace out.
Chair, make a motion to adjourn.
Oh,
Thank
yeah.
you.
We
Second.
all second that.
Well, I guess we're all in favor. Okay, ciao.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.